everyone. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I am your host, Kyle Walker. This week, we are rejoined by producer Katie. Welcome back, producer Katie. I hope you missed us all terribly last week.
Oh, I didn't get time off. I just wasn't on that particular episode. I still had to watch your lovely face.
That's her way of saying she didn't miss us at all. That's what you're supposed to do on podcasts. You're supposed to talk, producer Katie. You produce, I talk. You know, it's the way the world goes round.
I do appreciate you being the talent.
Yeah, well, you know, if I don't do it, then nobody else will, and probably no one else would want to. So everyone is stuck with me. Anyway, so last week we went over the triathlon. I'm not going to dig back into that. If you didn't listen to Kyle's adventures in triathloning, please go back and listen to last week's episode. Probably good for a chuckle. Maybe that would be my guess. And yes, you are more than welcome to laugh at me to your little heart's content. This week, as I warned you last week, so many weeks, I am actually not here. You may think I'm here, but I'm not here. I am actually in another state as you are listening to this right now. And so we are doing what we call a pre-record. Isn't that the right term, producer Katie?
That works just fine.
That's right. We are pre-recording. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to bring in someone who is far smarter than I am. This is our good buddy, Dave Borchert from the Kansas City Sports Commission. He was on last year and talked all about the Garmin Kansas City Marathon. And then there's some other stuff we had to talk about last year. There's some other stuff we're going to talk about this year. So without a further ado, we're going to bring on Dave. Here we go. All right. As I threatened earlier, joining us again is Dave Borchert from the Kansas City Sports Commission. Welcome back to the show, Dave.
Good to be with you. Sorry to all the viewers that they have to see me this time and not just hear me. I know that's bad.
If you can believe this, people asked for this. They asked for this nonsense for us to actually be seen instead of just heard.
That's funny. You think they would have changed their minds pretty quick, but apparently not. That's good.
I know. Yeah. After the first few episodes with my face on it, I really thought we'd be done with this, but no, the call continues.
Hey, you got your own logo. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you've got many a logo because, as everyone knows, you are the Grand Poobah, the man in charge of the Garmin Kansas City Marathon. And I'm going to scare everyone now because by the time they hear this podcast, we will be under 100 days until that race.
Crazy. I mean, when you put it that way, I think about it more like the training plans, right? So the 16-week training plan kicked off the first week of July, and I'm thinking the 12-week training plan kicks off pretty much the very end of July. But you're right, like the 100-day mark's a big one too, for sure.
Yeah, that's the one that I tend to look at. And so it's coming up. Again, by the time this episode airs, you will be under 100 days. And so that's crazy. But what can we expect this year from the Garmin Kansas City Marathon? I thought last year was great. I had a great time out there. What's new, different? What can you share with us? Just dive in, whatever you want to throw at people. Get them excited for this race.
So it's always one of those things where we want to keep doing what we're doing well, but we also don't just want to do the same things every single year, because then at some point, like, you got to do things to keep the race fresh, right? So, and that's something we talk about every year, kind of after the race, and then also like leading into the race, what can we do fun and different? So in terms of what's going to be the same, we're expecting to be at the same start finish. So that's worked pretty well. We moved from the Crown Center area to the Nelson Atkins coming out of COVID, and that's worked pretty well. The obviously the start finish is beautiful. That starts at night, so you can't see it so well, but getting to finish in front of the Nelson Atkins with the shuttlecocks there is cool. And then having the big after party at Tice Park on the south side of 47th Street. It's just a really cool space. So knock on wood, the streetcar could affect everything, because that's really how we ended up at the Nelson Atkins, was the streetcar tearing up all of Main Street. So I'll say knock on wood, but I think we envision probably being at the Nelson Atkins area for a long time. We've gotten really good feedback on that. The course in general should stay the same. So one of the things people really like about the race is that it runs past all the big landmarks in Kansas City, and we don't want to ever get away from that. So we'll still be running, through the Plaza, Westport, up to the World War I Memorial, Union Station, Kauffman Center, downtown City Hall, 18th and Vine, Nelson Atkins, all that stuff. And then, of course, the full marathon, people get to tack on what we call the Southern Loop, at least to the Sports Commission. I don't think anybody outside the Sports Commission calls it that, but it's essentially the extra 13 miles that involves going down, by Pizza 51 and that stuff by UMKC, getting down to Brookside, Waldo, and then turning back and coming back. And one of the cool things about shifting from Crown Center to Nelson is, the course is always going to be fairly tough being in Kansas City. That we talked about at one point 5 or 6 years ago, man, let's try to make this a really fast course. And what we realized was, if you're going to make it a really fast course, it's going to be a really boring course. So it's kind of the, darn if you do, darn if you don't. If you make it a really cool scenic course, which I think we have, it's not going to be lightning fast like a Chicago, for example.
Sure.
But if we try to make it lightning fast, it's also not going to be as fast as Chicago, and then you'll lose all the sights. So we think we've found a pretty good balance. Even though the course isn't super easy, we do get people every year that PR and qualify for the Boston Marathon and all that sort of stuff. So it's certainly not an impossible course. So I've been rambling, but essentially we're going to stick with a similar course, which I'll mention. By the way, the 5K is one of the fastest 5K courses in Kansas City because it's essentially coming through the plaza and coming back. So it's almost like a version of the Plaza 10K, except in 5K form. So it's actually a really fast 5K course for those of you looking to try to PR that. We're certainly planning on having seasonably cool fall weather, which we seem to get every year. I know before we started talking about this and started the interview, we were talking off the air about Hospital Hill Run having hot weather. And, knock on wood, that third Saturday in October is almost always really good running weather. So we're hoping to offer that again. We'll have live music in the Finish Line Festival. We'll have free adult beverages from our friends at Central States Beverage. We'll have barbecue again. We believe we'll be partnering with Jack Stack Barbecue again. So free race photos again, free Finish Line Festival massages. Those will be the things that are kind of the same, to kind of get back to your question from a few minutes ago. And then we're talking about what can we do kind of new and fun and different. So one thing we want to add in is kind of a dessert option into the Finish Line Festival. So we've been talking a lot with Russell Stovers. And if they're out there listening to this, this would be a great time to finalize our partnership. But this is actually their 100-year anniversary. So they've been doing a lot of things celebrating their 100th year. The Russell Stovers headquarters in Kansas City is just a stone's throw from the Nelson Atkins. It's just right down there off the plaza. So what we've been talking about with them that I think we'll be able to do is having like a finisher chocolate for all the runners to come in. So after you have your barbecue and your beer and you're sitting there listening to music, we hope to have some sweet treats from Russell Stovers as well. We've also been talking to Andy's Frozen Custard. So even ramping up the after party more by having some additional sweet treats is good. I know for me, anytime I'm doing a half or a full marathon and you start dying late in the race, I'm always thinking about that stuff at the after party. So for me, that's like the carrot that's dangling to get me to the finish line. So we want to keep ramping up the after party. And the other thing we're planning to do that we did pre-COVID, we haven't done it in a few years, but we want to bring back the pre-race fireworks. So when you kick off the race and you have, the countdown and the horn goes off, we want to have that moment where the fireworks go off in the distance and kind of a cool takeaway. We haven't done that since we moved down to the Nelson, but now that we're starting to get our runners back and starting to get our budgets back, we can incorporate more fun things like that. So that's another thing I'm excited about as well. But, one thing, and I know we're going to talk about Hospital Hill as well. One thing I'd throw out to you guys and really anybody who's listening is please send us ideas too of things you've seen at other races. Maybe there's things we're not trying that you've seen somewhere else. And we just want to keep growing this race. Another thing we're going to keep pushing is more and more spectators. We're partnering with Johnny's Tavern again. They're going to have a spectator contest. So after the race, we'll send out a post-race survey and the runners get to vote on the top 3 most memorable cheer zones. And Johnny's Tavern's given out a $500 gift card for the most memorable, and then $300 and $200 for second and third place. So, in my mind, I think there's still a lot of room to grow with the race in terms of spectators. And it's tough in some ways because there's not much we can do about it as race organizers. Like we can pick the course and the after party and all this stuff, but like a lot of that is just the city coming out and embracing the race. And I'm sure you've seen races in other cities. I mean, I mentioned the Chicago Marathon earlier. They have 2 million spectators. It's crazy. And if a big city like Chicago, that's a top 10 city in the world, like if they'll come out and rally around the race, I know we can do it in Kansas City. And Kansas City is such a good party town. It's such a good tailgating town. So we're going to continue to try to push that message as well and get really people to come out and improve the runner experience. And that's another thing too, that when you're dying at mile 22 of a marathon, the spectators can help get you through it. You don't need the sign at mile 6 that says you're almost there, because that's a lie. So we don't need that.
No,
But
please no.
more spectators along the route's great. That's something we continue to push every year, is trying to grow that.
Yeah, no, spectators are wonderful. Now that I've done the Boston Marathon, the spectators helping me get up Heartbreak Hill were the ones that really saved my life, because that was brutal. But yeah.
Dude, it's funny you mentioned the Boston Marathon. So I did it last year for the first time. And I think you probably had the same experience. Like, people were cheering for me like Tom Brady was running down the street.
Yes.
I'm like, this makes no sense, because I'm just some guy from Kansas City. But yeah, to your point, like, you see that stuff and you're like, man, we got to get that in Kansas City. So, the mayor's on board, the city promotes the race. He comes out and speaks. We have the spectator contest, but really, like, for those of you out there that are runners, like, ask your friends and family to come out. If you're injured and can't run, or you have a different race you're doing, like, come out and spectate. Because, like, for me, that means a lot. And I judge a lot of races I do off the entire experience, not just the course. And I think a lot of those races you really remember are the races that the spectators are amazing. And I think we've made some strides in that the last 5 or 6 years, but you see things like Boston and you're like, man, we could still do so much more.
Yeah, compared to the big ones, Kansas City still has a long way to go between the New Yorks, the Bostons, and the Chicagos. But
sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I of course have a million theories on why it is what it is, but and a lot of it is just location. Downtown Kansas City sometimes on the weekend is a little bit of a ghost town. But that means there's just plenty of good spots to see the runners go by.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah,
but it is cool that you hit. I mean, you do hit all the landmarks. Now, you listed them off, and I'm thinking, oh, yep, that was there, that was there, that was there, that was there. Yeah. So it is great how you do hit every major landmark, or at least most of them, in downtown Kansas City, Missouri.
When it's funny, I mentioned like the post-race survey we send out. That's always a good way for us to kind of keep our finger on the pulse. And we always get like, what's the top rated thing and what's your least favorite thing? And I don't know, do you want to guess? I could tell you, but do you want to guess like top rated and then least favorite?
Okay. The top rated, well, I mean, I would hope that the top rated is the landmarks, the scenery.
It's a course, yeah.
The course. Okay. So the course is top rated. Lowest rated. Oh man, I feel like some people are so fickle. They're going to say something like it's too dark when it starts, or the weather wasn't what they wanted, even though you can't control Midwest weather in October. I don't know. Something revolving around nature.
No, it's the same thing. It's the course. People are like, my favorite thing is the course, right? That's like the highest rated thing. And then when people ask, what's the one thing you would change? It's like the course is hard. So it's like, it's really funny. Like I said, the course isn't impossible because people get PRs, people get BQ times, but I'd say compared to Chicago, it's a hard course, right? Like there's no doubt about it. So I think I think a lot of those, like everybody gets a survey. So the 70% of the runners from Kansas City, and then the 30% of runners that are from outside the city. And I think the people that really complain about the course are probably the people from Florida who come in and there's no hills in Florida, and they think Kansas City is like a wheat field, right?
Right.
So I think they have no idea what they've signed up for. But I just always thought that was funny. Like the thing hilarious. People complain about the most is that the course is hard. And then the thing that was the highest rated was like, I love the scenic course. So it's funny how that works.
Yeah. I bet most of the people who run around here often, like we all know that there's hills. Like there's no way to avoid them. You can't make a course that isn't going to have them, or like you said, at least not one that's going to be any fun at all. But yeah, I think we're all pretty used to the hills around town. So yeah, that would not have crossed my mind that the course was both the highest rated and the most complained about, because that makes no sense.
But like what you said is right. We'll get, so let's say if we have 7,000 runners, we'll probably get about 10 to 15% of people complete the survey. So it's like a good number of people. And we'll go through every year and read every single comment, because it is always like, is there anything we missed? Please tell us one thing we can improve on. Like we make people answer. And there are people that say like, hey, it was dark and it's hard to see the porta potty line at 5 a.m. And like that stuff we know, like, okay, then let's have a generator and lights out there the next year. So like there definitely is stuff like that for sure. But I just thought it was funny about the course being top and bottom. And to your point, though, I do think most of the complainers are from outside of Kansas City, because we're used to it. Like
Yeah.
unless the only races you run each year are the trolley run and the Plaza 10K, like you're going to run races with hills. And one of the things we have, what I'm sure you know about, Eladio Valdez is our coach,
Yep.
and he runs the runner's edge and he coordinates our pacers. And they have a strategy he calls smart pacing, which is essentially you'll slow down by 20 or 30 seconds per mile on the uphills, you'll speed up by 20 or 30 seconds per mile on the downhills. And like if you don't run that strategy, it's so much less likely you're going to have a good race experience in Kansas City. But if you do that, and if you live here, you've definitely trained on the hills, so you're used to running hills. If you run it smart and pace it smart, you can still have a great race. But what I worry is people, especially that come in from out of town, don't do any hill training, or if they do, and I think we've all made this mistake, you're so fired up at the start of the race, you're rested, you're tapered, the weather's nice after you've trained all summer in 90 degrees, and you go way too fast the first 2 or 3 miles, and you don't even feel it till mile maybe 20. But whenever you feel it, it's like the wheels come up instantaneously. And so much of that is either bad fueling or bad pacing. And that's one of the great things about Eladio is his pacers will help keep you on target so you don't kind of give into that temptation of going too fast at the beginning.
Yeah, not that anyone around here would be guilty of that. I mean, I don't know who we could be referring to. Oh, sorry. Yeah, me. Definitely have my hand up there. So you have pacers then for both the half and the full, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Well, that's good because I was not a firm believer in pacers, but the more I've gotten into using them, like, oh, you know what? This is actually a really great thing. So pacers are wonderful.
Well, if you slot into the right pace group as well, because that's the thing, you could say like, here's my ideal scenario, here's my fallback plan, or maybe here's like my realistic goal. And if you kind of slide into your realistic goal group, a lot of the times you're going at a pace where you can talk to people for most of the race. And like, that's a way to really make time fly by. Like for me, if I'm training for a marathon, the runs that seem the easiest, and it sounds stupid, but like 15 or 20 mile runs with your friends that you're just talking the whole time, like those fly by.
They do.
And you can get some of that experience with the pace groups if you pick the right pace.
Yep, absolutely right. And again, we go back to someone who's a big contributor to the show. She's a pacer named Amy. We did the Plaza 10K together, and she just kind of jogged up to me. We started talking the whole time. We met at mile 1. All of a sudden, the finish line was off to the left. I'm like, where did the time go?
Great.
We were just shooting the breeze the entire race. It was great. I wish all the races could go that fast.
It takes away all the thinking. You're not thinking about your pace. You're not thinking about how far you've ran. You're just kind of zoning out. And a lot of times you're like getting to know new people as well, which is cool. So you'll encounter people, you're catching up with them. You'll find brand new people. Where are you from? How'd you get here? All that stuff. And like you said, you could kill 5 or 10 miles like that just with a pace group. It's pretty funny.
It is. Yeah. But I'm turning into a fan. They're converting me into being a fan of pacers. So
have you done any pacing?
Me? No, I have not done any pacing.
You should totally do it. You should totally do it. It's like in all my running, it's like the most fun thing I've done. Like it's maybe not quite as fun as like racing when you're in great shape and you're going to go kill a race, which is a crapshoot. But pacing's so much fun because they need pacers from, for the half marathon from like 1 hour to 3 hours.
Right.
Like, so really like once you can handle the distance, it's fun to help pace and just really help people reach their goals. I think that's a lot of fun.
I think I could do the sweep. I think I need to be back there and just tell people, all right, you have to be in front of me. Come on, be in front of me. You're going to get pulled. Go. And, just maybe.
Well, so you probably know Melissa Hart. She just moved from Kansas City, and she was kind of in that role. She was in that role a lot of the time. So, I mean, we may need someone to kind of take over that role. It could be you.
Hey,
Back of the Pack podcast.
I'm going to do it in the back of the pack shirt. That's absolutely right.
Well, let's get with Eladio. We can make that happen.
Yeah, Melissa actually. So Melissa got me to my first sub 3 hour half marathon after my heart surgery. So the first time I hit sub 3 hours, I ran with Melissa for, I don't know, maybe the last 3 or 4 miles of Hospital Hill a couple years ago. And so, I know Melissa well. Yeah, she just moved away. Doesn't love us anymore.
She's good people. Yeah, Kansas City running community is a little bit less happy with her gone.
Absolutely right. So, well, and you know what? What a segue, as it were. Talking about Hospital Hill from a few years ago, because I finished this year's Hospital Hill. I did much better this year than a couple of years ago. It was nowhere close to 3 hours, thankfully. And then I get home, and a couple of days later, I see this very strange email that Hospital Hill, becoming a little more locally owned, shall we say? Why don't you shed some light on what just happened to HHR?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people in the local running community know Lisa Drake. She's been the race director on and off for Hospital Hill for about 15 years. She came back, I want to say around 2018 or 2019. Beth Salinger had been the race director.
Mhm.
They asked Lisa to come back, and this is just like me and Lisa talking. I think she told them, "I'll come back and I'll get you through the 50th year, and
Right.
then I kind of like to ride off into the sunset." Like that conversation happened at some point because Lisa's super busy with her other jobs with Feature Socks and Goo, and she does so much other stuff in the running industry. So I think that was part of her deal with Hospital Hill Run is I'd love to come back. I love this race. I care so much about it. Let's get you through the 50th year, and then let's figure out a long-term plan. And I know they had kicked around some different ideas, and I think they had seen everything we had going on with the sports commission,
Mhm.
with the NFL draft, with the World Cup,
Yep.
to a lesser extent with the Garmin Kansas City Marathon. I don't know how many people know, but we have other events throughout the year, like the KC Tri, the Big 12 Run, Thanksgiving Day 5K. We have our Win for KC all-female endurance events. So I think they saw that and said, this would be a great place where the sports commission's stable. It's going to be here for years and years and years. And they do such a good job with their other races. Maybe they'd be interested in the Hospital Hill Run. And we met with them and said, wow, this is like a great honor because Hospital Hill Run's one of the, not only is it the godfather of Kansas City races, but it's a prestigious national race. Like,
It is. Yeah.
as much as I love the KC Marathon and we talk it up and like, that's my pride and joy. Hospital Hill Run's been around longer than the Garmin KC Marathon. So, I mean,
Yep.
This is a race that's also in its history brought in some of the top runners in the country, back in the heyday that had, around 1 hour half marathons on that course, which is a hard course. So
Yes, it is.
I think we were really honored to be able to have that conversation with Lisa and the Hospital Hill board. And essentially they wanted us to take over the race. And so that had been in the works for probably 6 or 9 months before Hospital Hill. And we knew we wanted to kind of hold the announcement until after the race, so it didn't distract from the race itself.
Right.
We had people down there helping. This year, our president and CEO, Kathy Nelson, ran the 5K with her husband. So we wanted to be able to really see it before we take it over, I guess, for lack of a better term. But I'm like you, I've ran the race before. I've done the 10K. I've run the half marathon 4 or 5 times. So I'm super familiar with it. And yeah, we're honored to take it over. And for us, it's a nice fit in our race schedule with the KC Tri in the spring and Hospital Hill Run in the summer. And we got the marathon and the Thanksgiving Day race in the fall. So it kind of allows us to cover the whole calendar. I don't think anybody's begging for a race in January. So I don't think we're going to be going there, but
Oh, come on.
no, but like, I know that there's Argo, like Argo's there if you really want to, and I think there's the Hangover half marathon, which I've never done, but I think it's a great fit for us. I think Hospital Hill thought it was a great fit for them, and hopefully the local running community is excited about it too.
Oh, I am. I think I reached out to you the same day the email dropped because I really wanted to hear about it. I think it is exciting, and I am super excited that Hospital Hill is going to stay around. That's going to be run by KC Sports Commission. I think you guys will probably kill it. How much involvement are you personally going to have with it each year? A whole bunch, a little bit? Contributing?
So that's a good question. I don't think we've identified internally like a race director yet.
Okay.
I think that's still TBD. I've had a few people ask me about that. I feel like every time I go somewhere, people are like, who's the race director? And I don't think that's been identified yet. Just so for background for your viewers. So my main job with the Sports Commission is selling sponsorships, which I know you're like getting your foot in the door with that stuff too, with the
it's a
podcast and the race business and all that stuff. So
Yep.
We have 15 different programs and events throughout the year. So my main job is trying to get sponsors for all those events because we're a nonprofit. We get about half our funding through event participants and about half our funding through event sponsors. So my job day to day is event sponsorships for the KC Marathon. My job is also being the race director. So that's kind of creating a vision for the race. And like you said, supervising everything from course to fuel on the course to after party and all that sort of stuff. So
Right.
I don't know if I would have that job for Hospital Hill. We have a great director of events at the Sports Commission, Josh Zabel, and he's the race director for all of our other race events. So
Okay.
he is great at, like, he's the man at logistics and planning and permits and fencing and porta potties and shirts and medals. Like, he does all that stuff. So I would think it would be him or someone on his events team if I was guessing. But to be honest, I think next year is going to be a lot of kind of a learning experience for us, and don't mess up a good thing. I think like I said, with the KC Marathon, I think we know a lot of things that work well for Hospital Hill, maybe some things that could be better, but I don't think we really want to shake up the apple cart and change a lot for next year. I know they already had a race date set for the race, so that's going to stay the same.
Okay.
I think in general, the course has to be pretty similar. Like you have to start, finish at Crown Center. You have to run up the Hospital Hill at some point. You have to have that downhill finish that people love going into Crown Center. The race date is set, at least for next year, right? It's always the beginning of June. And you know, they have a good area for an after party. They have good beer, music, food. Being in the summer, they can give out ice cream sandwiches. Like, that's cool. So I think, like, a lot of the things we really don't want to change. I think next year we want to get our hands dirty, execute the race well, see what worked well, see what could be better. And I wouldn't think there'd be any major changes next year, but long term, I think we want to keep doing what works well, and then, you know, figure out what we think could be tweaked to make it a little bit better, and also hear feedback from the running community. You know, what could be better? Is it, like I said, I think you want to keep the course pretty similar, but maybe there's some tweaks here and there that could make it a little bit easier. Like I said, the event date is set for 2024, but, you know, is there any reason to move that race a couple of weeks earlier? That's something, like, me personally is thinking about. I have no idea if my coworkers would feel that way, but I know you said how hot and miserable it was this year.
So brutal.
I ran the race 3 or 4 times, and I've never had it not be pretty hot.
Yeah.
So you kind of, like, my head goes to, okay, if you did this in mid-May, like, at least it could be a little cooler. But I also know, like, the Hospital Hill people have told us they think a big part of the tradition is the race is always the first weekend in June. And they think people put it on their calendar. And even though it's hot, it doesn't scare people away. So, like, I totally see that side to it too. So I don't think we're going in thinking, oh my gosh, it's a clean slate, we're going to reinvent the wheel. I think we know what works well, and we're going to see it even more next year. And then if there are any semi-significant changes, I think it would be after next year. But the thing is, it's already a really good event. So I don't think you want to change things just to change things. But
no,
you know, if you guys have feedback too.
Oh, I've got one.
You know, what you like about the race, what could be tweaked? Like, we're open to that for Hospital Hill Run as well as the marathon.
Oh no, I've got your $1 million idea right here. You ready for this? So we know that in March, the Little Rock Marathon has the biggest finisher medal in North America for a full marathon. Hospital Hill now needs the biggest finisher medal in North America for a half marathon. And producer Katie might be shaking her head at me, but I think that's what we got to go with. And that's going to bring everyone. We need medals as big as dinner plates for everyone to wear. I want people to put this on and fall over from the weight.
You want to look like Flava Flav is what you're saying.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
To be a dinner plate. Then Kyle can, like, eat his, like, after race snack on it.
I will put my barbecue sandwich or whatever comes out that day on my medal with my fork and knife, and I will eat directly off my half marathon medal.
So it's such an interesting idea, because I'm sure you guys have done the Liberty Half before.
Oh yeah, that thing's
they've kind of gone that route. I mean, they're by far the biggest race medals in Kansas City.
Yes.
And so I'm torn on it, because I think 100% people sign up to get it.
Yep.
I don't. Like, for me, I don't want that, but people do. So, like, I don't know if I'm in the minority, because Little Rock, it's a thing. And the other thing Little Rock that does is cool is they have a different theme each year, which is pretty cool. So it could be like, here's the space aliens year, and everything they do is like UFO themed, or like, here's the 1990s theme. So yeah, they do some cool stuff down there for sure. The big medal's an interesting idea too. I like that. But how about you two? Would you do races just to get a giant medal?
100% yes. I am, pardon my French, earmuff kids, but I am the medal whore of Kansas City. Yeah.
He really is.
I really am. And I've actually, I've done the Little Rock, kind of. I was down there the year it got canceled midway through the race because of the ice storm.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
I was there that year. So I was 14 miles deep, and they redirected everyone to the finish line. So I got the big honking medal. I didn't earn it. And so I actually emailed them the next week and said, hey, I only did 14 miles. Could I get a half marathon medal? And, like, there was one in my mailbox 2 days later. So
that's funny.
Yeah, they're very responsive. And I really want to do that race to earn one of their gigantic medals, but they're every bit as big as you hear.
All right, Katie, you're the tiebreaker. Are the big medals awesome, or are they annoying?
Awesome.
I don't like them near as much as he does. I think that there's definitely a sweet spot around the 6-inch range, 5-6 inch range.
So
It's kind of what we try to do with the Garmin KC Marathon medals. Like we say, we want something substantial that's a little bigger than average, but we don't try to go the Little Rock route.
Right.
So
right.
we're kind of in Katie's mindset. Yeah.
So Katie, for the KC Hustle Run, how big are our medals again?
We have a 5-inch 10K yeah, and then the 4-inch for the 5K.
So 5-inch and 4-inch. Yeah, I know. I threw you on the spot there. Sorry, producer Katie.
That's okay.
Well, what about you personally? You have any races coming up on your schedule anytime soon?
Oh man, so I tore my meniscus on St. Patrick's Day.
What?
Yeah. So here's my problem. So I got addicted to pickleball. I've been alternating running and pickleball, and you may have heard this, but the people who really love the pickleballers are the hospitals and the orthopedic surgeons. So
yeah, I'll bet they do.
Everybody who plays pickleball is a higher risk to get injured than running, which sounds stupid, but I ran marathons for 10 years straight without any major issues. And I played pickleball seriously for 6 months and tore my meniscus. So I'm still kind of coming back from that. So no races. I do have Plaza 10K in my head is something I'd like to do.
Okay.
It's probably not going to be an all-out race, but just do something to get something on the calendar. But no, that's kind of the one in my head. How about you? You're doing like 10 races a month, right?
It sure feels that way. No, last week was the triathlon. If people can go listen to that episode. Let's see, what do I have coming up? Actually, I'm off this weekend. Oh, I've got Rock Island Half Marathon coming up at the end of July. I have never done Rock Island before. I hear it's kind of a beast.
So it's interesting. I live in Lee Summit, so I run on the Rock Island Trail all the time, but this is a different thing, right? This is out, like it's a different part of Rock Island. It's like 10 minutes east of Lee Summit or something. Like, I don't think it's the same Rock Island Trail.
Yeah, it's probably not the same part that you run on, but yeah, I think we're farther east. East of
like
Lee
Pleasant
Summit.
Hill or something like that.
Pleasant Hill, that's it. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So that part of the Rock Island Trail doesn't connect to the Rock Island Trail that runs through Lee Summit.
Okay.
And the part that runs through Lee Summit's really darn flat. And so I've heard, is this hillier, the one you're doing?
No, I've heard it's very flat. The problem is it's the end of July, so it's going to be really hot, and then it's completely tree lined. So even if there's a breeze, it really doesn't get in there. So I've heard it's just very still, stagnant, hot, humid air. That's kind of what
some shade, I guess. That's good.
Yeah, there is some shade. Yeah, that's the trade-off to having no breeze. You have a lot of shade.
I was wrong. In the summer, you can't do 10 races a month because there are not very many races. There's like a 4th of July race, and there's Hospital Hill, and there's the Rock Island Trail. But I guess there's probably only 8 or 10 races the whole summer, maybe. I mean, there's not a lot.
I mean, there's a lot of 5Ks that pop up here and there, but really all anyone is doing is training for the KC Hustle Run, our run, on September 17th. So, you can knock off the rest at Plaza 10K, and then you can come run the KC Hustle Run with all of us, and that can be a real big return to running.
And a training run for the Garmin Kansas City Marathon.
And absolutely a training run, because I'm already signed up. I'll be doing the half marathon this year. Last year, I did the 5K at Garmin last year, and I felt so dirty because I finished a 5K. And when did that start? Like 8 in the morning, 8:30?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I finish it, let's say it took 30 minutes. I'm already eating barbecue and drinking a beer, and it's 9 a.m., not even 9 in the morning. So that didn't feel right. So half marathon for me this year.
You're saying it didn't feel right, but I see you smiling. So
I mean, I'm not arguing it. I still ate the sandwich and drank the beer. Yeah.
Right.
But we were there at the end of the race for our back of the pack people with our cowbells, and Kyle was even doing little dances.
Which has somehow made it on the YouTube channel. Yeah.
Okay, so that all came about through our podcast conversation last year. So now I got to put you on the spot and say, can you be our back of the pack cheer zone at the finish line again this year for the Garmin KC Marathon?
Well, for the full marathoners, yes, because I'll be at the back of the pack of the half marathoners, finishing my running. But yes, then I will absolutely turn right around and grab a cowbell and get the rest of the marathoners, the full marathoners through.
Well, perfect.
Yeah, I bet we could get quite a few more people there this year.
Yeah, we're going to plant the seed. All right, back of the pack podcast listeners and now viewers. we're all staying for the Garmin Kansas City Marathon on October 21st. So just plan on it. Bring a new shirt for when you're done running, and then we'll all meet up at the finish line and we'll get people across.
And if we need to, I'll go get a box and I'll carry a box of barbecue sandwiches and beers to you guys. If you don't want to have to walk all the way down, I'll make it happen.
Deal. Or just look the other way if I bring a cooler.
Okay, that's fine. I'm good at that. I'm good at
perfect.
Yeah, don't tell me what you're doing. We can make that happen.
No, you don't see anything.
Right.
I hit my microphone. All right. Well, is there anything else coming up? Anything else you need to let our listeners know about?
No, I think that's it. Like I said, we got our 16-week training plans are live now. Yep. You can get those for free at kcmarathon.org. The 12-week training plans kick off, I think, July 30th. So it's the very end of the month. I know training in the summer can suck sometimes because if you run in the morning, it's the coolest, but it's the most humid. If you run at night, it's less humid, but it's way hotter. So there's no really good options. But just keep going and you get a big payoff on race day when it's nice and cool and you just feel like you can run forever. So keep up with the training, check out our free training plans. And if you haven't registered yet, check that out, kcmarathon.org. I'll also mention, I know a lot of the hardcore runners in town know this, but it's not just a full marathon. We also have a 5K and a 10K and a half. So we really have fitness options for all we have distance options for all fitness levels. Apologize if I misspeak there. And also people can come out and walk the 5K, 10K or half. So really we're trying to make it open for anyone that wants to do something to improve their healthiness. So if you can't do the full marathon, we got a lot more than that. And you can get all the info and register at kcmarathon.org.
Yep. And then you said coming out this summer, we're going to get the t-shirt reveal, the medal reveal.
Yeah.
Can you clue us in when? Because I think it's technically summer.
We normally roll one out in July and one out in August. So that's kind of the game plan. So stay tuned for that. We've also started this year with block pricing. So we moved away from here's a price increase every 2 months. So now it's whoever signs up first gets the cheapest price. And after we get so many signups, the price goes up. So if you're definitely planning on doing the race, try to sign up a little earlier to save some money because it's not the normal email and here's the price increase. So it seems to be working pretty well. We're up about 12% in registrations year over year so far. So that's going well.
Heck yeah.
And definitely so it should be an even more exciting race and bigger than last year, but definitely sign up early to save a few bucks unless you're one of those people that is a terrible planner and you're going to sign up. It's funny. We have people every year that come into the expo at 7:50, 11 hours before the race and sign up for the full marathon. And I'm like, what are you doing? You should be at home, like resting after your pasta dinner and you're in here signing up for the full marathon, but it happens every year. So don't be that person.
That's crazy. And yes, we have every intention of being back at the expo this year because we made a lot of friends at last year's expo. So hope to make a whole bunch more this year.
Yeah, that sounds good. We're excited to have you back. And the expo will be at Union Station again.
Awesome.
Thursday the 20th or Thursday the 19th and Friday, October 20th.
Yep. Then October 21st, race day, baby.
7 a.m. Nice, cool weather.
Yep. Yeah,
it's going to happen. We're going to speak it into existence.
That's absolutely right. We're going to have beautiful weather. We had great weather last year.
I'll tell you, it was perfect. So I've been working on the race since 2016. We've only had 1 year that I'd say was a little warm. And it was one of those that the high was 65. So, it wasn't bad. It was just around 58 at the start. So it's like a little warmer than you'd want, but most years are like 45 at the start. It's normally real nice. So hopefully we'll get that again.
I hope so. All right. Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming back on the show. We are at your disposal. You need us for anything, you just holler. We'll get the word out.
Yeah. Same goes for me. It was great talking to you both.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. We will see you next time.
All right. Take care.
Yep. All right. A big thanks to Dave for coming on the show. Again, we actually have to kind of cut ourselves off because this will turn into a 3-hour podcast. If we're not really careful, both he and I are aware of this. Now, producer Katie, you are definitely aware that this is kind of what we do.
Yep. And of course, you could not resist bringing up the New York Marathon again for the 9,000th. What do you say? 11 billionth time?
11 billion. And this was not the 11 billionth time, maybe the 10th billionth time. 10th? But no, come on. It made sense in what I was talking about. It made sense, right? Come on, everyone, back me up on this. She's attacking the poor, pitiful voice and face of the Back of the Pack podcast. And really, she should be ashamed of herself.
I don't know about poor, pitiful, maybe.
Poor, pitiful me. That's right. So again, a huge thanks to Dave. I am super excited that the KC Sports Commission has taken over Hospital Hill. That's going to be fun. I'm sure won't be a lot of changes this year, but I am excited to see what they do down the road, especially as we start getting closer to the World Cup in Kansas City, because a early June race and then World Cup, they're going to be really close together in 2026. So,
That'd be amazing.
yeah, that's worth keeping our eye on. And then also, okay, now I kind of feel like we've been called out. So Back of the Pack podcast fans, KC Hustle Run, Hustle Club Run, all of you members, we kind of have to show up now and cheer on the folks finishing up the marathon on October 21st. Like, I kind of feel like the challenge has been laid down. So when my slow rump gets done with the half marathon, I'm just going to put on a dry shirt, turn right around, grab a cowbell, and we're going to bring the folks home. So I hope you will join us, because producer Katie, I'm sure will be there. I will be there. And then all of you will be there. Right?
Oh God, he's looking into our souls. Stop.
I hope you can feel this. YouTube people, you're getting all of this. Look at your screens. That's right. All right. Well, this has been the Back of the Pack podcast. I am your host, Kyle Walker. My pleasure. As always, this show is brought to you by OKKC Sports. It is produced by the person to my left on the screen. Or is that my right? Where are we? That's producer Katie. And so we'll be back next week again, you don't even know it, but I'm not even in the state right now as you're hearing this. But we'll be back next week. We'll talk about stuff and things. Sound good? Stuff and things, Katie?
Stuff and things. I love
it. Stuff and things. I like it. All right, everyone. See you next week. Bye.